Is this Lisa?
Yes, good morning.
This is Joe calling. How you doing?
Joe Bonamassa, what a delight. Thank you. I'm doing well, and you?
I'm doing great. How is the weather in Minneapolis today?
You know what? It's crisp and wonderful. Winter's coming, so right now we're digging it.
The first sign of fall. I think everybody's relieved. It was a very hot summer. I like seasons. That's why I moved back to New York City.
You were scheduled to come to Minneapolis March 13th, 2020. That was actually the date when the world got still. How did you cope through the whole COVID situation?
Well, we were there. We were set up and ready to play. And we were informed by the mayor's office that we weren't playing around 6:30, maybe 6:15 on the day of show. We were ready to rock. And the whole situation was so fluid at that point. Nobody knew what was going on. We'd had a show canceled in Green Bay the day before. We show up to Minneapolis, but it was still like there was no blanket policy for anything. It was just town to town. Whatever they were doing, we had to abide by the rule. And we then, as soon as the first show in Minneapolis got canceled, I went to my entire band and crew. I said, "We're going to Nashville, folks." And that was it. We drove to Nashville that day. And, I mean, nobody expected to be, literally, everybody expected maybe it was a week or 2 weeks, but nobody expected a year and a half. And the reality started to kind of sink in about a month later that we could be off for a while. And it was time to get to work on the charity and start raising some money for bands that I've been very fortunate in my career, so I could weather the storm, but there was a lot of people that were my friends in the music industry that were just, kind of blindsided at the peak touring season of the year. The spring, summer, that's where everybody makes their money.
Is that part of the Keeping the Blues Alive Foundation?
Absolutely. And, we raised to date about $750,000 for this Fueling Musicians campaign. And we gave it out. We gave it out in hundreds and hundreds of $1,500 stimulus checks. And we just originally were giving away a gas card and a check. And then finally we're just like, well, here, just you can buy a gas card with the money. So we just finally started giving out checks, and it helped musicians through all genres, not just the blues. We were, if you're a heavy metal band, you lost shows, we have a check for you. If you're a Tejano band from Taos, New Mexico, we got a check for you. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? We're helping the community of musicians.
Wow, that is profound. I heard about the cruise and I thought, well, that sounds fun. I click on it. It's March and it says waitlist. I'm thinking, well, what am I not seeing right? No, it is sold out. Your Keeping the Blues Alive sold out.
Yeah, that'll be our 10th cruise that we've done since 2014. Was the first one we did. And it's a great way to raise some money for the charity. Everybody has a great time. I get to hang out with my friends, and we get to jam with a bunch of great bands. So it's 4 fun days. And what I didn't realize was when you start your own cruise, because my view of it was like, oh my God, it'd be like the Kathy Lee Gifford of the blues. No offense, she's great.
Yeah.
Kathy's great. But she was pitching the cruise lines. I'm like, what am I going to do? Play shuffleboard? Not doing that. So anyway, it really they turned the whole boat into like a floating venue. Like there's 10 different venues. There's always music playing. There's always people jamming, and it's super fun. And the fans come back every year. They literally have made lifelong friendships over the last decade, by just coming every year and seeing the same folks. So, we do 2 a year. We do one in March and we do one in August out of Athens, Greece next year. So it's great.
During COVID, is that when you started working on time clocks?
Yes, we did the whole album during COVID, and it was, looking back at it now, it just seems silly. It's just like, we show up to the studio and they take our temperature and then we have to sign a piece of paper and then we have to wear a mask in the studio, but I could take the mask off if I was singing or actively eating or drinking. You're like, okay, this is one way to make a record, and I'm like, none of this seems to be moving the needle. So we made this record on Zoom. My producer was in Australia at the time. He couldn't make it to New York, and so he would get up at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning. We would start at 10 because he was 15 hours ahead of us. And we made this record on Zoom with some pretty unique challenges that I hope to never have to live through again. Because that was just, there was a point where I almost threw my hands up and I go, guys, this is a little too nuts for me. Let's convene. Let's get the band back together and we can actually just get in the room and play. Because that's part of the making record experience. You got to be able to play the music together. In a studio or live. That's the kind of music I play.
Well, I'm glad you said it's the kind of music you play, because there's many artists today who just piece it together electronically. But I can't even stand a Zoom phone call. I can't imagine trying to produce a beautiful record that way. So I understand that challenge. Was your podcast live from Nerdville started during the pandemic? I just discovered it and have been listening, and I'm wondering how far back it goes.
We started in the beginnings of August, September of 2020. And, I've hosted a radio show for years. I have a radio show on Sirius XM that airs 5 times a week. And I've always been interested in interviews. I wasn't going to invite all my friends on a podcast, because it's a very, very crowded space at the moment. Everybody's got a podcast, the podcaster who produces the podcast does a podcast about producing podcasts. You know what I mean? It's like, wait, too much. And so I wasn't going to go on and just add to the noise. I just wanted to do, an interview show that's the non-interview. It's just like two musicians talking. Or we've had S.E. Cupp from CNN. She was on. Brad Paisley was on. Paul Stanley was one of our first guests. And, and it was just something to kind of put out there that, because everybody was kind of searching for just ways to kill time and to kind of zone out from the reality of life. And it filled a gap. And, we do them now sporadically. So, if I can book a guest, we'll do them, sporadically. It doesn't have to be every week. And because I want to get back to being a guitar player. I don't want to, you're a journalist. I'm not a journalist. I didn't go to journalism school. I mean, I have Wikipedia like everybody else. But, it was something that we did, and people seem to enjoy it. People literally will stop me on the street like, hey, I just saw your live from Nerdville with so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, wow. So it did get out there.
You know what I really loved was the one with Kevin. I had a podcast like everybody else mine lasted 7 episodes, but I just interviewed my friends. Like my niece is a world-renowned falconer, but you don't sit down and talk to people in your family, your close friends, and interview them and ask them the kind of questions you would normally do. So I loved the podcast with your producer, Kevin. I felt like it really highlighted so much about you and your music and him. What a find. Yeah. What a find you have with your team, with you and Kevin and Roy. Is that your manager?
Yeah, my manager. And we've been doing this, Kevin and I have been together 17 years. My manager and I have been together almost 32 years. And, I think one of the reasons why it all works is because everybody sticks to their lane, and everybody has their lane of expertise. And we very rarely fraternize in other people's lanes. And that's why it works. And, ultimately, Kevin he's in charge of the production of the records and the DVDs, and I come up with the songs and he produces the records, and, Roy's the marketing guy, and it works, and that's why, a lot of my contemporaries and peers are like, I don't see how you've been able to accomplish all this. It just seems so far. Well, I have good people around me that I lucked into,
Also, what I was curious about is the name. It sounds like you're going ziplining or something, J&R Adventures, and your career has become an amazing adventure. But how did you know to pick that name, Adventures, for your company name, J&R Adventures?
Every day is an adventure, you know. Every day is an adventure, and you know, that's one of the things I love about playing live is you know, you could be at the height of your game one night and just be like falling on your face the next, and then you just have to pull yourself up and get back on the horse. You know, it's every day is a new adventure. You know, you show up and you play, and then you move on, and you know, you travel and you get paid to travel and see the world. So it's like, you know, what's not to like?
Oh, I love it. Absolutely. I don't know how much time we have. Can I ask a couple more questions?
Sure. No problem.
Being in the Twin Cities, we kind of claim ownership of Jonny Lang, even though he's from the Dakotas. But when people still call him Kid Jonny Lang, I was wondering if when you were you ever, you know, Boy Bonamassa, or have you always been able to keep just Joe Bonamassa?
You know, it's funny because, you know, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Jonny Lang, myself, we're all friends, and we've been friends for a long time. And we've had this discussion, like, about Kenny likes to remind me I'm the oldest. No, actually, Eric Gales is the oldest of our peers. He's a couple years older than me. I'm a couple months older than Kenny, and Johnny is like 3 years younger than us. But we're all in our mid-40s at this point. And still to this day, we're still looked at as the kid guitar players from the 90s, even though some of us are, me included, like approaching 50. So, you know, the thing about Jonny Lang is like he still looks like he's 22, but he's in his early 40s. And, you know, I remember when he came out, and he just came out and blew everybody away. And it's like, wow, how can you sing like that at 16? You know, and had those big hits on the radio, and it was great. And it all, you know, literally, it all started out of Minneapolis, where he got his big break.
I was wondering, the story that to you think everybody knows it, but there's people who don't, about when you were asked to go on stage with B.B. King at age 12. What I find profound and just moves my heart is that I had heard you, or maybe your manager, mention that B.B. King was always about moving things forward and helping the next generation. And here you are with Keeping the Blues Alive Foundation, now doing that very thing. Was there a moment in time when you shifted to go, I guess it's my turn to carry the torch? And did B.B. King get to see you do that?
You know, one of the things that the one record that I wish B.B. would have heard of mine was we did a record. It was right after he passed away in 2015. We already had this tour book, and we were doing a tribute to the Three Kings. You know, obviously Freddie, Albert, and B.B. And we worked so hard on that. And we actually got nominated for a Grammy for this thing. And I wish he would have heard that, you know. But he was always about paying it forward. And, you know, ever since I started to get some success in the music business, it's always about paying it forward to the next generation because, B.B. understood the fact that there has to be more people involved in the music making and in the music consumption, you know. So there's got to be more fans, and the way to get more fans is to get more people involved. And if there's not a younger generation of kids getting involved in the blues, then it kind of, you know, it's going to stall a bit. And so he was very, very conscious of that. And I learned from him, and, you know, our philanthropy end of our business is really solely based on his inspiration and his you know, mentorship for all those years.
And it's just profound. It's also when the whole Bloodline thing happened, I hope you don't mind me bringing it up. It's probably long enough ago. Is it okay if I talk about that briefly?
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I loved was, just from the documentary, I saw that they said that you weren't cool enough, and you were like the guitar engine behind it. And instead of just like folding up, you went and got voice lessons and became, and probably had in your soul, an amazing vocal talent. How did that whole situation thrust you into becoming a singer?
Well, necessity is the mother of invention. And in our band that we had in the 90s, it was not the real issue with Bloodline was the fact that we were all kids and didn't know how good we had it, and we were just kind of finding ourselves, and we were different ages, and there's different times. The difference between a 15-year-old and a 22-year-old, it's a huge difference, and when the band ended, I decided that I was not going to, link my fortunes directly to one person or two people that have a fear of success. And most musicians collide with themselves with a fear of success. They don't believe they deserve it, and when they don't believe they deserve success, strange things start to occur. And I realized that very early on in my career, and I believe my young age and being conscious of that really made becoming a singer that decision easy, and I knew I didn't want to just be a strictly instrumental guitar. I knew that you have to be the whole package, and you have to put in the work. So it was just a bridge that I had to walk over.
Well, I admire you for that, and your voice is absolutely amazing. At your shows, November 11th and 12th at the Orpheum, just an absolutely gorgeous setup. Do you find the who's who in local music shows up to see your gigs? I mean, I can't imagine, because you have such a huge cult following. It doesn't even seem like a cult following anymore.
Well, I mean, I don't know who. I have friends in pretty much every market, so if they know me, we'll hang out. But I don't know who shows up. I mean, it's ages from 7 to 70, and they're all there for a different reason. They either saw me on TV, they either heard me on the radio, or they've just been a fan of my records or something. And they come out, and that's the thing about music, especially today. We live in such a divided society politically, and it just seems like it's getting worse. So if you take 2,400 people and you look at that and you go, everybody here probably has split down the middle political views, things that they are passionate about, they're not passionate about, would agree, disagree with, fighting on Twitter. They're all quiet, and they're all listening, and they're all having fun, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, we're uniting people, and everybody they're all united. They're like, hey, I dig this music. Let's go. Play the guitar. Boy, I'm like, fine. And I'm happy to do that. It's always been my credo, So it's like, just play the guitar. People will enjoy it.
Oh, I love it. So you were 4 when your dad put the guitar in your hand. I think I probably had something in my hand at 4, but I was never motivated to pursue it. Was there a magic moment? I mean, when it happened, did you go, yeah? Did you connect right away, or was it a process?
No, you don't realize, I mean, there's not a moment of realization where you go, oh my God, I'm good at guitar. You work at it. I still work at it, and I still love it and still try to play every day. But it's one of those things for me where it's like, you never realize that you're good at guitar because you're always constantly self-analyzing and critiquing and trying to make yourself better. I know I can play, but I'm not, there was not a moment where the light bulb went on and said, hey, I can play guitar today. It's like there wasn't that moment. You listen back to some of the things you do and you're like, oh, I wish I could have done that over. But, it's everybody's work. I mean, you're your biggest critic, unless you have a massive ego, which I don't. So.
Which is very obvious. So the show is at the Orpheum, November 11th and 12th. The new album is Time Clocks. Your Instagram account is fantastic. It's a peek into a world that most of us don't get to see.
I run the Instagram page, and then when I get sick of that, I stop. So.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that I haven't brought up that you'd like me to mention?
No, I'm looking forward to coming back and actually playing a show in Minneapolis. We came so close last time. We were an hour away from the downbeat, and then they canceled it. But we were that was a strange time. hope not to repeat. So.
Well, thank you so much. I can tell you have radio experience. You made it easy for me. And I loved learning about you and seeing your life and your unique trajectory. And you did it your way. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.